probably early next week so that you can refer back to it. And if you know other people who you feel can benefit from it, or someone in your organization who wasn't able to join, they'll be able to watch it at their leisure. So we, as many of you know, have been working with Arts Boston since the beginning of the festival's program. It's been a great partnership. They've really offered a lot of great webinars and information on data collection and social media, and also been housing your festivals on their website, which we want to make sure that you continue to do so. And add those, make sure you put them in there, because that's where we do a lot of our promoting and a lot of our tweeting out and posting on Facebook about things that are happening around the Commonwealth, and that means your festival. So make sure you go to that artsboston.org/massfestivals page to upload your festivals going forward. So I'm going to turn it over to John Beck and Chad Saros, who are going to be running you through this great webinar on finding and keeping audiences. This is a really, we did a social media webinar, which is on the website, as well as a data collection webinar. And this webinar, we really wanted to sort of focus more specifically on things that are sort of low-hanging fruit and easy things for you to do, knowing that festivals oftentimes are run by volunteers and people are doing other things, but we want to make sure that we help you hit your goals of getting more people into your festivals, and our goals and your goals about collecting data and keeping and finding your audience, which is really, really important. And so I'm going to turn it over to John.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I am John Beck. I'm the Deputy Director at Arts Boston. I'm joined by my colleague, Chad Sirois, who's our Digital Marketing Manager.
Good morning.
And what we're going to do this morning, I'm going to skip over. You're familiar with Arts Boston. As Lisa said, please go to our website, use the Arts Boston calendar to promote your festivals and to send folks to find other festivals happening in Massachusetts. But what we're going to do this morning is we're going to talk a little bit, follow up on the data collection webinar that we did back in April, and actually dive deep into one case study of one of your fellow festivals who started collecting data for the first time this summer, and hear a bit more about their experience beginning to do that data collection work. And then we'll turn it over to Chad and talk about, so now that you've collected some data, you have some information on your audiences, what can you do with that information? How can you use that data to help engage your existing audiences? And how can you use that data in some new cool ways to find and grow your audience? And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and wrap up at the end. So this webinar goes about an hour. And so first, I just want to talk a bit about the webinar that we did back in April, because we explored a lot of different topics for data collection. We talked about a lot of free and low-cost options. We also discussed some more advanced and pricey options. We talked about everything from setting up geo-filters in Snapchat, using iPads to collect survey information, and doing simple enter-to-win raffles. Also, that you can start collecting more information about who you're actually serving at your festivals and begin to build a relationship with those audiences. So if you weren't able to watch that last webinar, I'd highly recommend that you go back and view it. It's not necessary to watch it before seeing this webinar, but I do think there's a lot of great information in that webinar for you on data collection, both simple free stuff that you can do, as well as some more expensive and interesting technology options. So some of the things that I took away from that webinar, and from my colleague Ryan, who presented, was to first, you need to make an organizational commitment to collecting data. It has to start at the top. Okay, so if your organization isn't truly committed to collecting data about your audiences, it's not going to work. But if you make a commitment to it, you'll start to find opportunities that you hadn't thought of before throughout your entire festival. If you're only doing it to be able to report to MCC, and you're not doing it for you and for growing your audience, it's never going to work. So make an organizational commitment to collecting data. Secondly, focus on the data that you're actually going to use. Again, this is for you. So we spent time showing you some of the demographic information that you can get if you have the physical mailing address of your audiences. But that's hard to collect, and we understand that. So if you're prioritizing, really focus on what's the data that you're going to use that's going to affect your organization and your ability to get more audiences. If it were me, if I were running a festival, I'd focus on two things. email address and zip code. Because if you're able to collect email addresses, there's so much more that you can do with it to follow up and get additional information, and Chad's going to dig into that in the second part. The third is incentivize the behavior that you want. If you want to collect email addresses, think about all the ways that you can get, that you can incentivize folks to give it to you. What are the VIP experiences that you can offer? Or is there special seating? Is there special access that you can give? Free things that don't necessarily have to cost money, but that people might need to register for and give their email address. Don't miss the simple stuff. Little things like that. Enter to wins. We talked about using like coffee cards of 10 coffee cards and then drop that into a raffle. And then use that data to know your audience and find out more about them. So we're going to give you a couple quick tips and tricks on how to use data to find out more about who your audiences are and how to grow that audience and how to reach them, especially on social media. And most importantly, follow up and be relevant. So I can't tell you how many times I sign up on an organization's website or I'm at an event and I give my email address to someone, and then it's radio silence for months. I don't hear anything. If I'm giving you my information, it's because I want to find out more about what you do and your mission. So follow up. Make sure to follow up and be relevant. And part of that being relevant might be, if you don't have anything else going on, promote the other festivals going on in Greater Boston. Promote the events happening. Send them to the Arts Boston Calendar Mass Festivals page. But we understand that there are challenges, and some of the challenges that we heard from festivals who have reported back to Lisa, some of the things we heard is, well, the data webinar was in April and my festival was happening so soon I wasn't able to implement some of the things that you talked about. And really what I hear when people say that is, oh my God, we're so busy just trying to get this festival to happen, I can't do anything else. I can't do more. And some of that's because of having a small or no staff or all volunteer staff. Not having ticketed events can be overwhelming. Well, how are we going to collect this information if we aren't actually having ticketed events? Our event is outdoors with multiple entry points. We can't corner people and force them to give us their information. And we just simply don't have the budget to do this type of data collection. Do those sound familiar to folks? So what we decided to do was to find an example of an organization who maybe had many of those challenges, a festival that was happening right on the heels of that data webinar that happened this past May. And we're very excited to have Cheryl Kingfisher with us this morning. Cheryl worked with the Southeastern Mass Pine Barrens Alliance on their Pine Fest this year. And she worked with them to help implement their first real data collection effort this summer. And I'd like to welcome Cheryl and make sure that folks can hear her. Cheryl,
hello.
Are you there?
Hello.
Oh.
Yes, I'm here.
Terrific. So Cheryl, I was hoping you could briefly introduce folks to the Pine Barrens Alliance and to Pine Fest, and then we can get into the data collection effort.
I'm delighted. Thank you very much for inviting me and us to share our little story with you. We're very honored. And just to start out, that last slide you had up, the challenges to collection, I checked off every single one of them. All of those were challenges to what we ended up doing. So let's go back to what the Southeastern Massachusetts Pine Barrens Alliance is. We call it SEMPA for short, so I'll be using that acronym. It's an organization that's a little over 4 years old. It's all volunteer, and our mission is to work to better protect, enhance, and celebrate the globally rare Southeastern Massachusetts Atlantic coastal pine barrens ecosystem. A mouthful, to be sure. And it's important for us to point out to you that we are very new kids in the area when it comes to looking at the natural resource base and all that needs to be done to assure that it stays in balance with all the growth that's going on in the southeastern part of the state. And we know that we know, and we are very excited that there are dozens of other nonprofit, government, and even private sector players who are working toward the same mission and goal that we have. And it became obvious that they all needed a crossroads where they could engage more with each other. So that's why we set our organization up as an alliance. The three things that I mentioned above, to protect, to enhance, and to celebrate the ecosystem, well, Pine Fest is one of the ways that we celebrate our ecoregion. And it has happened for 3 years now, each May. So about 3.5, maybe 3 3/4 years ago, we decided, the rest of the organization did. I must tell you that I've only been here for a year now, but the organization decided to host this outdoor celebration of the ecoregion in the middle of the ecoregion, which is in the Miles Standish State Forest. The region actually runs, this particular ecosystem runs from the Marshfield, Kingston, with a swoop over into Mattapoisett, Marion, all the way down through the Cape and the islands. So that's the territory that we're looking at. And the festival itself was really designed as a way to introduce those whom we could entice to come to learn about all those various different players. So there was a state environmental conservation person there with a turtle display of rare turtles, and there were several different folks, including some Native Americans, the Mashpees, who were there demonstrating skills and knowledge and ways that they have protected the region, to folks like the 4-H's, and just a range of about 25 different display folks who were there. And yes?
Cheryl, can you talk to us about how did you get to the point where you decided, we want to find out more about the people coming?
Okay, so that's the background. I was just going to say that we started out the first year with about 500 people attending, and this past May, 1,500 or so came.
Wow.
And what we, in part, I have to say, it was our grant request to the Mass Cultural Council that said, you could also take advantage of this event to collect data or find new supporters for this work. And we listened to the webinar, and then I'm a board member for SEMBA, and said, okay, let's do the raffle thing. We don't have a lot of commitment. It's late in the year, but we could do a very simple raffle and collect folks' names, their email addresses, and I think one of the things we did that we wouldn't do again was telephone number, have them write out the town where they live, and then we should have just captured the zip code. The site, it's held in one of the recreational areas within the park, and so there were 3 primary entrances to the festival area itself, and we didn't think about that this year. What we did was we made up just raffle tickets, and we had raffle tickets at our own booth, and then I wandered around, and another board member occasionally wandered around with the tickets, in our pockets and a clipboard, and had people sign up and give us the tickets that way. So we collected about just under 200 new contacts, and realized that, afterwards, had we had someone posted at each of the 3 primary ways folks were coming into that recreational space, we could have done a whole lot more. We had 3 gifts in the raffle. The first one was a $50 cash card for a local grocery store. The second one was a ticket to have a 2-day rental of some kayaks, and the third was a midweek day on at one of the golf courses. And so having everyone working on other parts of Pine Fest, and since this was my first one, I agreed to organize the raffle piece, and got the raffle tickets and made raffle signs, and secured. We had one prize. One other board member secured the second one. I went and got the third one, And what I found, because I'm the one who collected most of them, that people were very interested, and I think they all knew, chances of my winning the raffle aren't so great, but yeah, I think I would like to know more. And they were very good at saying, sure, we'll fill out the ticket, which it was cumbersome doing that, so it took time. And if there was one family member, usually there were 2 or 3 family members standing together, one family member's filling it out, another one would engage me a little bit in conversation about the Pine Barrens. So that was great. That increased the exchange of information about who we were and why we were there. And one of your questions was it hard to encourage participation? No, it was not hard to encourage the participation of our visitors. We just didn't have enough capacity to capture, enough of them. I mean, we only got 200 out of 1,500, so that's not a lot really, but it's a good start. We were very happy with that. Was it hard or awkward to ask our volunteers to do this? No, it wasn't hard because there were 2 other board members who joined me in covering as much ground as we could with the raffle and this approach, and everyone else had other tasks at Pine Fest. The board did not; they reacted positively to going forward and doing the raffle to get these results. So I already told you that ultimately we had, when we took out duplications and other things, about 175 new contacts, new pieces of data, and the largest challenge was capturing more. The second challenge would be to figure out, when we do it again next year, to streamline the way folks share that data and information. We thought about iPads and trying to type it into iPads, but we decided that not everyone would be able to do that. Using iPads outside where it's sunny, you don't really see the screen well. So having folks write it down seemed like the best approach back then. Then, of course, all those had to be retyped into our computer system. So that was another challenge. So sure, I'll stop there. Would love to take questions.
Yeah, Cheryl, when you say raffle, were people paying to enter this raffle, or was it just a free enter to win?
It was a free, and I made it very clear to everyone. We're asking you. We would like to know who you are, and if you would like to know more about us, if you will give us your email address, we in turn will drop your email, your name, into a free raffle to win one of these prizes. And so there was a major incentive. I think a lot of people say, I'll take a chance on $50 to go grocery shopping, and okay, I'll share my contact information.
One of the things that we often hear is challenging for collecting data is kind of just the concern that people are going to be push back about not wanting to give you their information, or they're going to be offended in some way that you're even asking for it. Was there pushback from folks? Did you experience? How did you deal with things like that?
After I made that initial pitch, they could say no, and frankly, I'm now stretching my brain to think of how many times people said no, they weren't interested, but it was very few, very, very few. Most people said, sure, we'd love to hear more about you, and I'll take a chance on that gift certificate.
And you mentioned 3 prizes. And again, looking back at the challenges, just for organizations with a small budget, who maybe are thinking about, well, how can I get a prize like that? Did you folks actually purchase those gifts, or were they donated? How did you go about getting those?
We purchased only the $50 food cash card. The other 2 were donated. Yeah. So it was, a very little outlay for us. I mean, really, the cost of our collecting this data was $50, some gas to pick up the other 2 certificates, and our board and staff time. Oh, I'm sorry. And we spent a little bit of money on making laminated signs that said raffle and explained it.
Terrific.
So, yeah.
A couple of the things, and I just want to remind people that if folks have questions for Cheryl, you can just write them into the chat box, and we'll definitely have time at the end for questions as well. But a few of the things that I heard that really stuck with me in this, and Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing the story, was that their festival was about 3 weeks after that data webinar. And in that short amount of time, you decided to make a commitment to it. It came from board members, so there was this organizational commitment to collecting data. But you made it happen really quickly. It didn't have to cost a lot of money. Most of it was free. And I know that you were disappointed by having 180 entries, but that's over 12% of your total audience that in the past you knew nothing about, that you now have a way of contacting throughout the year to engage with your mission, and as you'll see in a few minutes with Chad, to find out more about and to get more of those folks. So I actually think that 180 out of 1,500 is pretty amazing and really commendable.
Well, we were really happy. We were really happy that we did it, and we learned so much from it. And obviously, we really appreciate that number of new quote potential members, because the next step is to send an annual request for support, out to everyone who's on our current list, and see what kind of results we get from that. But I think the other piece for me as the organizer was, and again, this was my first Pine Fest and my first time actually in that recreation area. My husband and I just moved here, recently, and so to learn what I learned, what SEMPA learned about doing something like this for next year, we will figure out ways to capture even more and engage more of the folks coming through those 3 gates, because we'll have had this experience. So it was very valuable to us.
Terrific. And the last thing that I heard that I just want to reflect back is it made me so happy to hear that this was a way to activate your board, in a way to engage with festival attendees in a discussion about your mission, and that it was sort of this side effect of, yes, we wanted to collect people's data and get them in the raffle, but it was a chance for you to actually talk face-to-face and engage with people about your mission in a new way that board members, it sounded like they really valued. And so I think
that's absolutely true. I mean, one of the things that excites me as an individual volunteering with this organization is that our board is an incredibly active board, and as I said, we're basically an all-volunteer organization. We're lucky we have an AmeriCorps this year, but there's really no paid full-time staff doing any of this. And when the board members come on, part of our commitment to the region and to the work and to this organization is to each say we will spearhead some project or 1 or 2 projects over the course of the year. So the entire board, is pretty much like this. Everybody does something fairly significant, and that's how we get our work done here.
I love that, and it's just so it's such a good reminder that volunteers really want to help. They're passionate about your organization, and I think sometimes it's difficult for us to remember to ask volunteers to do more, and people will do incredible things if we ask them to and if we're very specific. So Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to put you on mute, and then at the end, will you stick around in case folks have other questions for you?
You're very welcome, and yes, I will.
Terrific. Thank you so much. So what I'd like to do now is, so for an organization like Pine Fest that committed to doing data collection and got 180 folks on their list, I'd like to switch gears and talk about, so you have some of this data, how can you use it? And we've brought in Chad Sirwa, who's our digital marketing manager, to talk to you a little bit about that.
Good morning, everybody. So basically, if you've done the basic stuff that John had mentioned, if you're just collecting email addresses, there's actually a lot you can do to learn about your audience and how to reach them. So I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the ways that you can use the simple data like email and potentially even zip code to reach your audience, talk to them throughout the year prior to your festival, after your festival, and then how you can actually expand that audience using those data points. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is the power of email. And email is something that it's one of the best marketing tools that you have if you are a small organization with a limited or no budget at all. And it's extremely effective to reach your audience. So it's economic and cost effective. There are many email service providers that are actually free or have some sort of discount for nonprofits, and I'm going to talk about a few of them in a second. You can personalize and customize emails for your audience, so it allows you to actually be more effective in how to get your message across. You make them feel that you are talking to them specifically, and if you actually know your message and you know how to speak to your recipients well, you're not going to be viewed as spam. They're action-oriented, so regardless of what you're doing, people want to either forward an email, respond to an email, maybe even delete an email, but they're always causing you to do an action. And so for a nonprofit, when you're talking about your event, whether it's visiting your website, whether it's making a donation, maybe it's clicking to a collaborator, or maybe it's clicking on to a presenter that's going to be at your festival, it causes people to actually have to do something and think about your mission and what you're trying to get them to do. One of the biggest things is you actually get data out of it. So emails are measurable. No matter what email service you're using, you can actually track who's opening your emails, what links they're clicking on, and if people are unsubscribing. So you can actually tailor your future correspondence with your patrons and your audience to know what they're doing. So if you sent out an email about 5 recipes that really work really well and no one clicked on it, well then maybe that's kind of a topic not to necessarily respond to, send them out again. The other thing is you can access your audience anywhere you go. So we all have smartphones. We're always on our emails. We're on our phone all the time checking our email, whether we're in Starbucks, whether it's a grocery store, whether we're in a webinar maybe. we're always checking our email. So you'll have the ability to actually hit them in their inbox and engage them at any time as they go about their day. So to talk about some of the options for email marketing, so there's a number of email provider services out there. I'm just going to highlight 3 of them that actually have a really great deal for nonprofits. The first one is MailChimp. So with MailChimp, you have free service with them for subscription lists under 2,000. So that means if you have only 180 new emails or 180 email lists total, you have free services, and you can send up to 12,000 emails a month. They have hundreds of templates to use. They have social media integration, so you can shoot your emails out on Facebook or on Twitter. You can easily segment your audiences, so between patrons, volunteers, between people who are only interested in musical performances that happen at your festival, or maybe they're interested in a specific type of director at your film festival. You can actually just target them and be more specific about how you speak to them. And then they have very easy drag and drop features on their templates. So it's quick and easy to design an email. You don't need extensive graphic design knowledge. And they have a whole template there for nonprofits. Yeah, a lot of people probably use Constant Contact, and they have a lot of other options, but these are some other versions. And we actually used to use Constant Contact ourselves at Arts Boston, and we switched over to MailChimp, as did the MCC. These other 2, and then promise this is not a plug just for MailChimp. There are other 2 email options that are available too, which is GetResponse. So with GetResponse, they offer 50% off for nonprofits. They have 500 plus templates. Again, they have social media integration. You can use video and multimedia content in their emails, and you can also segment very well, like your audience lists for them. And Vertical Response offers 10,000 free emails per month for nonprofits, and they have a 15% off monthly plan for nonprofits if you go over 10,000, or if you want a more robust plan for how you're going to be reaching your audience. So 4 simple rules to follow with email. You want to make sure that whatever service you provide, that they are mobile optimized. So you don't necessarily want a mobile version of your email. What you want is a mobile responsive email. So no matter what platform they're opening up and reading that email, whether it's your iPad, whether it's the desktop, whether it's on your mobile phone, they can read it. It's clear and it's beautiful. It's so frustrating to open up an email on your mobile phone and you have to try to zoom things in because you can't read something, or you're trying to get me to click on a link but I can't actually find it. So being mobile optimized is the most important thing. You're going to want compelling images. So one of the beautiful things about being an arts festival or a cultural heritage festival or an event is the fact that you have access to amazing photography potential, whether it's the vendors that are going to be at your event, whether it's the performers, whether it's actually just images from years past. So investing in a photographer and making sure you're getting great images is fantastic because you're going to want to use them again and again to get people excited and interested in the content that you're sharing. One of the things is people are skimming those emails. They are not paying attention to everything. So less copy the better. Use bullet points. Break it down for your reader. Make sure it's simple and clear so that way they get what you want them to understand, and then they can move on and either do that call to action that you're asking for, or they can just digest it as a fun, great email and share it with their friends. And then give your subscribers options. When you're setting up your lists in your email service provider, allow them to actually self-select what they want to know about. So if they just want to know about music acts, or if they just want to know about whatever the case may be, let them do that because they're going to let you know how they want to hear and when they want to hear from you. So you're not just kind of spamming them all the time about just generalize everything if they only want to know about certain things. So here are some examples of some really great, well-designed emails that have some clear call to action. One of them is from Charity Water, which is a big NGO, and then the other one is from the Institute of Contemporary Art in Boston. So the email from the Institute of Contemporary Art in Boston is asking me to subscribe and become a member of the museum. So it's kind of, you get a great, big, huge image cover shot, you get a headline, you get a little bit of copy there, and you get the call to action. And what's great is, this is actually just a cut-off version of the email, but you get the price points of what it is, you're getting a clear savings on what the discount is by becoming a member, and at the bottom, they kind of give a highlight of like some 3 upcoming events that they would find that they think that I would find really interesting and why to entice me to become a member. And just FYI, I did become a member after I saw this email, so it worked. Clearwater, this is obviously from a campaign. It's a follow-up. So when you're doing something, whether it's a development email, if you're trying to get donations, this is a great follow-up that shows like you did it. Like it makes the patron feel good that they've actually contributed. You have this beautiful image of this beautiful boy who has access to water, and it just makes you feel good. So these are 2 examples of like powerful ways that emails can be powerful ways of getting your message across. So the other thing about when you're thinking about email marketing is staying relevant and engaging your constituents and your patrons throughout the year. So thinking about the frequency of sending your email, don't just do it like a week prior to your event or like 2 weeks prior to your event. You're going to want to email them throughout the year because they're going to forget who you are, and they're just going to assume it's spam eventually once they see it in their inbox. So it's the follow-up that John spoke about earlier. So the moment they sign up for your email, you're going to want to send them and say, thank you, here's what you're going to be getting from us, and here's how you're going to hear about us. And let us know if you want to, if you want to address or if you want to change your subscription. You're going to want to at least send, not quarterly, but maybe monthly emails. You'll figure out what works best for you as an organization. You're going to want to be personable. So the power of segmentation is you can actually curate emails specifically for certain people on your list, or just including their names is a simple way to get people to feel like this is made specifically for them. It's a direct message versus a mass spam email. And then content. Content is king here. So you're going to want to think about curating maybe interesting articles. So if you are a festival, you can actually send emails with links to articles that are affecting the community, links that are talking about art. You can talk about other festivals that are happening in the area. So if you are a film festival, you can think about, oh, there's 3 other film festivals that are happening, so our patrons will be interested in this. You're going to want to become that expert at whatever you do. So obviously, if it's the Pine Barrens Festival, you're going to be wanting to talking about ecology, you're going to be wanting to talk about nature, and so that's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to talk about. If you are a cranberry festival, maybe it is articles once a month about great cranberry recipes for Thanksgiving. I mean, you can be fun about it, but you're going to want to have to be consistent, and you want to make sure that you're talking about things that are relevant to your audience. So once you've got your email marketing strategy down, which is going to be easy, you're going to love it, and you're going to be amazing at it, you're going to want to move on to Facebook. And the amazing thing is, with Facebook, you can take that email list and you can actually upload it, and you can find your attendees and your patrons on Facebook. So this is an amazing tool that Facebook has. It's for those people who are afraid of big data, it can be a little terrifying, but it's actually really great for a marketing organization, and particularly for a nonprofit that is small and doesn't have a lot of dollars. So creating a custom audience is pretty simple. So when you actually have your organizational page, there's an ability to go over to Facebook, and you can actually click on Facebook Ads Manager. And in that, you can upload your list as a text format or an SCV format. Really, what you want to focus on is primarily just your email address. You don't even necessarily need first names, but the more information you have, the better. It allows Facebook to match up users. And what you do is you upload your list, and it takes about 30 minutes, and what Facebook will do is match those email addresses with accounts that have signed up on Facebook with those same email addresses. So boom, now you have them on Facebook, and you can target them on Facebook with ads and posts.
Chad, I love this so much. Not only does it work with email addresses, but if you don't have email addresses and you have phone numbers for folks,
yep.
We've done this at Arts Boston just using phone numbers. And email matches better, but phone also works. And the thing is, if you've used Facebook, you've probably been noticing them prompting you to add your phone number or an email address for security reasons.
Yeah.
Really it's because they want to be able to do things like this, which is to identify you so people can market to you.
Yeah, so the amazing thing about this is you can actually do organic posts, and then eventually if you want to, for $5 or $10, you could boost those posts, and you can actually target that CRM list that you've uploaded. So you can target those email addresses and those people that you already know who are invested in your organization, and you want to get that message out to them. Because organic, unfortunately now with Facebook, it is pay to play, and it's harder to get people to just kind of see things organically. But if you already have their email addresses, you can easily target that audience.
So that means that if I send out, if they're part of my email marketing and they don't see it or they click off of it, then I can also I'm also targeting this the second way to get to them.
Exactly, through
in their Facebook page.
Yep. So you can actually go and then create a post that's either focus on what your email said or another aspect of what was in your email content, and then retarget them on Facebook. So how to grow your audience?
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Is there a way that Facebook can then, if I have those email addresses or I'm posting something about my festival, will it be able to find people who might be interested?
Well, this goes into into what we're going to be talking about next. So good question, Lisa. So the next part is growing your audience, and how you can grow your audience based on the data that you already have through email collection. So the average person spends about 11 hours a day on social media, and because of that, Facebook has a lot of information about who is on Facebook and who those users are. So they have this amazing tool called Facebook Lookalikes. And what you can do is it's basically a custom audience strategy in place, where you can take an existing list of patrons that you know go to your festival, or they're on your email list, or you have their phone numbers, and you can actually speculate that because you have these numbers, you can find X people that look like them on Facebook based on their activity, based on their likes and their interests. Because this is all voluntary information that people just give up on social media, and now you can cull that information and actually create another audience base that looks like ones that you know are already interested in your mission and in your event. So by creating a Facebook lookalike audience, you take that CRM list that you already have through how you either collected it through a raffle, or you collected it through a giveaway, or you just asked people for your email addresses at your event, and you've uploaded that into Facebook. You've already got those matches. Now what do? You go into audiences again in the ad tools on Facebook, and you create a lookalike audience from the drop-down menu selection. From there, what they'll do is they'll take those email addresses after you've selected the country that you want and the range of people that you're looking for. It will take those email addresses and find people on Facebook in that area that match them in interest. And from there, you actually have now a whole new audience in which you can target and you can promote on Facebook and market to them. It's a really amazing tool. We've used it a few times in our own work, and it actually works very well to get people to actually connect on the same sort of level. Specifically, if you're in if you're focusing on a very specific niche or genre. So it allows you really to connect with a audience that you know is going to be naturally already engaged, and you can get them to sign up for your emails, or you can get them just to come to your festival, or visit your website, maybe make a donation. It's a really great way to kind of speculate at a very low cost. Another amazing tool on Facebook is just their demographics. So you can create custom audiences just using simple Facebook demographic information. Facebook, you can narrow down a post by age, income level, location, race, interest level, gender, age. I mean, it goes the range, families, working moms. You can really break it down to whatever you feel like is the best out of your audience, and you can actually just create ads and target to those kind of those people specifically just through customized audiences on Facebook. And so here are a few examples of posts that we've done at Arts Boston where I've used actual low-cost marketing and I targeted audiences using Facebook demographics. So the first one on the left is a post that we sent out focused on Esperanza Spalding. She's a jazz artist that was performing here in Boston, and we were promoting that event. We had discounted tickets for it. And so initially it was just an organic post. It actually did pretty well. We had about 40 likes or so organically, and so I said, I'm gonna boost this post. And so I boosted the post by $50, and I targeted women ages 25 to 35 that lived in the Boston area who had an interest in Esperanza Spalding and into jazz. And as you can see, we had a huge increase, not just in paid actually placement, but also just in organic. We ended up getting 123 likes, 15 shares, we had comments. It was a really popular post, and it was a simple way to get our message out there for not a lot of money. The one on the right was for a performance of Langston Hughes' Black Nativity, which is held in Boston every year during the holidays. It's a fantastic event, and we were again had the opportunity to sell half-price tickets for it. And so with this one, I used Facebook demographics to actually reach specifically an African American audience. So we focused on women aged 35 to 55 because we knew that was sort of our ticket buying audience already. Specifically women that lived within Greater Boston, and women that were African American and had an interest in gospel music and Langston Hughes, the poet. So we reached total impressions were 6,000. We had over 100 likes on it and 38 shares, and we sold a lot of tickets for that one performance. And that only ran a week, and we only boosted it by total $50 was the boost for that. So again, not a lot of money that you're investing, but you're actually getting a lot of reach. So you can do that with both your lookalike audiences, you can do that with your customized audience that you get from your email subscriptions, and then you can just do that through Facebook demographics. So these are just really easy ways that you can actually grow your audience, build your audience, and keep your audience using email and social media. I think that's it for me. So we're going to wrap up the conclusions, and we're going to talk about some of the key takeaways, and then we'll open it up for Q&As. So the main takeaways for today is data is important. You need it to connect and create meaningful relationships with your attendees and patrons. Focus on collecting the easy things. So whether it's emails, zip code, however you can do it, those are the kind of the easiest things that you can do. Stay engaged with your audience throughout the year leading up to your festival or your event. Make sure that your emails have great content, that it's something that people are going to want to open every week, that they're going to want to share. And then with limited, if your team has limited time or a limited budget, focus on what works. Focus on Facebook. Keep people engaged in your audience. Boost a post here and there, and make sure you're reaching them. And use their tools to find new people.
Terrific. So again, if folks have questions, please type them into the chat. We have one question that came in. For festivals that aren't good causes, so like an arts festival, what incentives would be the most effective to get attendees to participate in an enter to win like that? And yeah, I agree. I think an arts festival is a good cause. But I think it's twofold. So one, what PineFest did was they really thought about their community and what folks would be interested in. I'm speaking for Cheryl, but I can just unmute her. Hold on. thought about what the community would be interested in and what they would want, and they focused on a $50 gift card to the market, so it was like a food basket thing. So there's stuff like that is universal, that people will always be interested in, a $100 Amazon gift card, things like that. But think about what, I was talking about this earlier, what experiences can you give those folks? If they're there and you know that they're interested in arts, and especially the art that you're presenting, what VIP experiences can you be raffling off? Could there be a meet and greet with an artist behind the scenes? Is it a museum tour, early access? Seating, sometimes for free events we forget that people want to sit in the front row. If we just rope those off and say, you have to register ahead of time, it's free, but if you want to sit in the front row, you have to register, and they'll give up their information that way. So those are a few ideas that came to mind. Cheryl, I don't know if you had any other thoughts.
No, those work for me, especially in the context of the audience that I know that we worked with.
And Cheryl, did you just go out to ask a bunch of different vendors and people if they would offer those particular things? Were they partners in the festival?
No, none of them were partners in the festival, and we thought about the food gift card because we thought it would appeal to everyone. And what we actually did was did the first draw. The person got to choose what they wanted. They chose the food card, and then the other two had to choose whether or not they wanted those other gifts. And so that's how we allocated them. There was not enough time nor thought, nor since it was so new, to actually be more strategic on those gifts. But that'll be a challenge and an opportunity for next year.
Oh, the other thing that just came to mind is just talking about that follow-up and be relevant, is if you're doing an enter to win, make sure to follow up to everyone who entered and let them know who won. Let them know that the drawing actually happened, it was real, that somebody won. If it isn't happening, if they aren't there when the drawing actually happens, just send an email out afterwards with a picture of the winner or something like that. So just make sure to follow up. Chad, we had a question come in about someone who has a pretty large email database already of 2,500 people. How can they engage them to help that organization build their audience? So how can you use the people who are already your base?
Well, first off, congratulations for having that many emails. That's fantastic. And the way you can engage them, it depends on what you're wanting them to do. So think about the actions you want them to take, whether it's sharing something. So maybe it's an enter to win, share this email with a friend, get them to sign up, get enter to win something. Or it could just be simple, or it could be like just share our message, help, support. It's amazing actually if people feel invested in your organization, what you can get them to do. So if you're doing an annual appeal, for instance, or you're asking for volunteers, people are willing to engage if they feel like you are engaging with them. So that's part of the strategy of actually creating a content strategy throughout the year about how to keep people engaged with your brand, talking about your mission, and making them feel like they're invested in it. Again, I would go back to using the tools on Facebook. You can actually upload those lists and find lookalike audiences based on that, target those people specifically that you have in your email list, and then also create lookalike audiences to really go out and reach new people and broaden that.
Right, and I think that's important for people because it's true. Many of you have festivals and events that have large audiences, and you send out a constant contact, or now you'll be doing MailChimp maybe, I don't know. But you have 2,500 and only 300 people open or click through to your email.
Yeah.
So you want to figure out ways to maybe get to even 500. But what's a good number? If your engagement, if you do have 2,500 in?
Well, so it depends on what it is. So it's more about percentages than actually the number of people that are opening your emails. So for nonprofits, the industry average is about 20% open rate. So that'll obviously reflect the actual number of your subscription list.
A question came in about fundraising because you mentioned fundraising. Just wondering, is email really the best way to reach someone for fundraising, or is hard physical mailing appeal still the best method?
That's a good question. I am not in development, but
I definitely have an opinion on that.
But
go ahead, John.
But I think it's a multi-pronged attack or a multi-pronged ask. it's the hard letter in the mail, and then it's the reminder in email. And I think they work together to get someone to donate.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't.
This is Cheryl. I would add that for those that you feel might be your best bets, a follow-up phone call, that personal phone call sometimes adds that extra push.
The one thing that you can do, though, is once you've actually sent that ask out and you've collected that money, you can take those higher donors and segment them in a special list to send them special thank yous, so that way you know these are the people who have gave us a lot last year, so they need something special. And personalize those emails versus somebody who just maybe gave $10. So you can actually go in and segment those lists, so you can actually talk to those patrons and those people differently.
So yeah, I totally agree with all that. And I think a hard physical mailing is still probably the best way to get people to actually give, but following up with an email as support for another touch is great. One other thing about activating people at the right time, one thing that we know is that the best time to ask someone to do something, whether it's donate or volunteer or take another step, is right when they've just done something. So I know that sounds pretty obvious, but so if someone has signed up on your website, signed up for an email, or if they've just entered to win at your event, immediately following that is the best time to get them to do something else. So it's the best time to ask them to invite their friend to do something. It's the best time to ask them for a donation. Don't wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later. Follow up right away. Another question was around the data that's actually being collected for the enter to wins. Just what are folks actually willing to give? The person writing in said that they found that people are willing to give their phone numbers, but not email addresses. What's the best way to do it? Do you have to make it mandatory that they give their email address in order to win?
Yeah. Yes. Make it mandatory.
I mean, you want to do it in a way too that it's not, that you don't feel like that it's creepy and that people feel like they're going to be spammed and things like that. I mean, I guess it's also in the way that you couch it and.
Yeah. I think in most cases, from my experience working at different nonprofits over the years, when we've done simple things like a raffle, usually the email address and the phone number's in tandem, because you send out the email, you won initially, and then you follow up if you don't get a reply back with a phone number. For Arts Boston, we only ask for emails. That's all we ask for. When we do an enter to win, like actually in person, when we table at an event somewhere, and people don't seem to actually have a huge issue with giving up their email if they feel like they're going to win something. Because the thing is, they can always unsubscribe once they get an email. It's a really low entry point investment for them, because they can just unsubscribe from the list if they don't want to receive your email.
So you might just want to take the telephone number out of it, and if you find that that's a big problem, and just do emails and zip codes.
Yeah.
Yep. Terrific. Well, unless folks have other questions.
We have time for maybe one more question.
Someone was just asking me to clarify the part about the asking when's the best time to ask people to take an action. What I was quoting was actually something from I've seen Blue State Digital present a few times. They're the folks who ran the Obama campaign, so in the political world, but it's also applicable to the arts world. The time when someone is most engaged with your brand is when they've just taken an action, signed up for your email, donated, bought a ticket, and actually in this world, it's actually they're most engaged when they buy the ticket, even more so than when they just see the show. Like they're more likely to recommend it to a friend when they've just bought a ticket. So the best time to ask someone to do something like volunteer or donate is immediately. So not waiting a month. If somebody comes to your website and signs up, get back to them right away and ask them to do something. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. Well, we're right on time, 11:30 for ending the webinar. We hope that this was helpful to all of you. The webinar will be available probably starting on Monday, and I will make sure that I send a link to this webinar as well as the first data and social media ones that we did back in May, just so you have that information. And yeah, so good luck with festivals that are coming up and events that are coming up. And if you have any questions, any issues, you can email me, Lisa, and I think you have my email information. And be sure to make sure that your festivals and your events are on the Arts Boston website, so that we can make sure that we're doing all that we can to promote them and get them out there. So thank you to Chad and John for a great webinar with some great information. And I look forward to participating in some of the things that you guys have going on.
And thanks to Cheryl for being a guinea pig and being willing to share your story. So thank you guys very much.
You're very welcome and honor.
All right. Bye-bye.